And get started so we can maximize our full hour together. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn about how emotional intelligence positively impacts the power of resilience in children. Very exciting, very important topic we're diving into today. Quick reminder for all of you on here, you are automatically being entered for a chance to win one of two prizes this week, either a $50 gift card or a My Feelings doll set. Very exciting. We will be announcing those winners in our show notes email, so just keep an eye out for that. It will be going out early next week. If you are the winner or winners, we will also contact you directly, so you don't have to worry about getting in contact with us. And a quick disclaimer before we get started. So the content that we are sharing with you today is not personalized, legal, or financial advice for your center. The goal today is for you to learn some really great tips, tricks, and strategies for you to bring into your center, into your classrooms, into your homes, wherever it may be. But if you are looking at making any big changes, we do just want to make sure that you are contacting the right people, such as a legal or a financial advisor. We're now going to give a listen to our land acknowledgement before we get started.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And we will now give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
And a few housekeeping pieces before we get started. As always, this session is being recorded. So if for any reason at all you have to hop off early, you will be sent the recording. Or if you want to share it with some of your colleagues or friends, the recording will be sent out as well. Also, a reminder, we are recording with the closed captions enabled. So those will be in the recording for you. But if you do require the closed captions for today's live session and you cannot see them on your side of the Zoom, just make sure that you are hitting that CC button on your side of the Zoom. Certificates. As always, everybody who is joining us live here today, you will be sent a certificate of participation for taking the time to be here and to learn. We will be getting those out to you by early next week. Don't worry if you do not see it today or even tomorrow. I promise we'll get them out to you by early next week. And lastly, Zoom. If you're having any issues at all with your Zoom connection, if you're having any issues with the sound on Zoom, we want to make sure you're contacting the right people who can help you. And that is the support team over at Zoom. You can contact them at support.zoom.us. Okay, and very exciting. If you have not heard yet or you haven't checked it out still, Hi Mama has launched an all new online professional development platform called Hi Mama Academy. In Hi Mama Academy, we have self paced and on demand professional development courses. There are tons of courses in there, so you can pick whatever you are most interested in, whatever you think your staff or colleagues should be focusing on. You can learn from any time and anywhere and from any device at your own schedule. Stop it, pause it, start it again later, whatever works for you. Once you're in Hi Mama Academy, you have unlimited access to tons of high quality and engaging courses, as well as access to past webinars that we do every week. You do not want to miss out. When you sign up for Hi Mama Academy, you can get a 7-day free trial. So we'll post a link in the chat there so you can access that. You can check Hi Mama Academy out, see if it works for you and your center. Okay, and finally, your host. If you've never met me before, my name is Maddie. I am your host of our Hi Mama Helps webinars. I'm also a customer advocacy specialist here at Hi Mama, and I'm also one of the registered early childhood educators that we have on the team. Today, I have a brand new co-host, my co-host Ian, whose name is also showing up as Maddie, so you might see two Maddies popping in the chat today. But Ian, welcome. Thanks for being here with us. Anything fun going on with you today or for the long weekend?
Hey, Maddie. Yeah, great to be here. I'm really looking forward to going to the zoo tonight with the kids.
Oh, exciting. That'll be so fun, Ian. For anyone, if you have any questions, any issues, Ian is in the chat. So if you have questions for our special guest today, post them in there. Use the Q&A function as well, and Ian will make sure those get to me for Q&A at the end. Okay, and finally, last but absolutely not least, our special guest, Marcel Waldman, founder and creator of My Feel Links. Marcel, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey there. I'm so thrilled that I get to be here for a second time. I had so much fun the first time. I had to come back.
So did we. I'm so excited you're here. I've had a sneak peek at Marcel's sides, and it's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing because I don't want to take up any more of your time. And the stage is all yours, Marcel. I'm here if you need me.
All right, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pop on my screen share here. Just a second. All right, let's go to full screen. Okay, so, well, like I said, am feeling really excited to be here today, presenting some really important information to you. And I hope that whether you are a parent or an educator, a center director, or a community member of any sorts, that this is something that is going to give you some really thoughtful new information, maybe review of some information, as well as some things that maybe you can put into your life. So here we go. So I want to start out with a question that's really important to me. And I hope it is something that you find yourself asking in your life. But if you could just pop in the chat, I would love to hear how you're feeling right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and tell you how I am feeling right now. Besides the fact that I am feeling really excited to be here, I'm also a little bit nervous because, There's lots of you out there. And I hope that this presentation, again, is really impactful for you. So that is something that I am feeling right now. So if you can share some of that in the chat, that would be amazing. I love hearing, oh, sadness that summer's ending, very exhausted. I'm guessing that is a teacher or a parent. We can all feel exhausted anywhere we are in our life. We have feeling good and tired, amazing. Ooh, someone has rain. They're so, ooh, I love this. Mildly annoyed. I like that. Okay, peaceful, excited, very tired, sad for summer ending. Oh, feeling better after testing positive for COVID. I hope you are feeling better. All right, so I'm seeing lots of words, stressed. Okay, so I love curious. Ooh, good one. And the reason that I like to start with that question is because it's really important for us as adults to be able to have the vocabulary behind how we're feeling so that we can help and teach that to children. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And through the presentation, I might have another question or two for you. So takeaways for today. So what do we want to accomplish? Well, I really want you to understand why emotional intelligence matters. What are the contributing factors to building resilience and adapting to adversities, especially for our children? The important connections between emotional intelligence and resilience, as well as what to avoid versus how to help children learn those healthy coping skills. So here we go. Okay, so a quick little bit about me. If you saw my presentation before, I kind of went over the same thing, but I think it's really important for you to understand where I'm coming from. So in my childhood, I knew sort of as I was growing up that I did want to become a teacher. I wanted to go off to college and I wanted to become an educator. I grew up in a school system that I think was really, it was very high achieving. And so kind of if you weren't, it kind of felt like sometimes you weren't as paid attention to. And so I think a lot of my childhood really reflects on why I wanted to become a teacher and why I wanted to be influential in kids' lives. My grandparents, my mom, my brother are really influential people that got me kind of where I am today. My picture of resilience, which we'll talk about a little more, is my mother who's walking me down the aisle right there. I am forever an educator. So I taught kindergarten, I taught preschool, I was a preschool director. I continue to educate teachers, staff, parents, community members on topics like we're talking about today. This is one of my favorite things is kindergartner on the very first day of school. I did handshake, high five, or hug, checking in on my kids' feelings every single day when they walked through my door. So this little guy, Cooper, called up and said, hey, I'm graduating high school and I'm heading off to college. Could you meet me at the kindergarten classroom? So here we are, and he is way taller than me, and he's heading out the door and he's heading off to college. And so just being impactful and a positive influence. I know all of you educators out there know what it means to continue those relationships with those students and to have them come back to you on their way to college. It's a pretty neat thing. So as I said, I'm a super big family girl. My parents live not too far from us, and we are together a lot. Both my kids play sports. We're on baseball fields and softball fields all the time. I have a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old. They have taught me a whole lot about where I am today as well. I am a very big believer in being a community volunteer. I sit on the school's foundation board. I volunteer for different organizations that are right here in my community that also reach out further. And I created Feelings. So Feelings is really all about connecting to our emotions and teaching kids sort of how to build and grow and become emotionally intelligent individuals. And my daughter and I just recently co-authored a book. And if you head to my website after this, you can see we had a little news story on Monday. So super fun. It's called Field Trip. And that exciting book is, again, all about emotions and connecting to our emotions and the resilience that comes along with being emotionally intelligent. So that takes me into where we are going to go today. So what is emotional intelligence and why does it matter? So emotional intelligence is really defined as the ability to monitor one's own and others' feelings and emotions, discriminating among them and using the information to guide thinking and actions. So that really is kind of a lot pulled into, one sentence here. But what we're really doing is talking about how do we see how we are feeling and understand it? How are we seeing and noticing how other people are feeling? And really, what actions are we doing around that, right? So when I'm feeling a certain way, do I know how to feel it, express it, label it, and then overcome it? Which again is that piece of bouncing back, which is really what resilience is. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but I really wanted to get you that really important definition. So emotional intelligence, I really think of it as this big umbrella. And even though it feels like it's, an umbrella over what I'm going to talk about, it really is the base of the learning and relationships that we have as adults, that our children have in our classrooms, in our homes. So it is big. Okay. This is definitely not something that, we are ever finished with. This is something that hopefully you feel as an adult you're growing in every day. It's big. Okay. So we're going to talk about what it is and then sort of how to connect that with the emotional resilience in our children. So the four main parts of emotional intelligence are what I'm going to define in the next slide, but they are self-awareness, self-management, so having to do with ourselves, and then social awareness, so it's about others, and also relationship management, which is about others. We have two sort of pieces that are really centered around ourselves, and then we have two pieces of the emotional intelligence that are centered around others. So let's go over what is self-awareness. So this is a basic understanding of how we feel and why we feel that way. So as I have here on the raindrop kind of coming here under the umbrella is, are we able to accurately name our emotion? So a lot of you told me when we got started here that you were feeling anxious or exhausted or tired or scared or nervous or really happy. Okay, so those are all, those are you being self-aware of your emotions right now. And your emotion from 4 minutes ago could be completely different than what it is right now. Intrinsic motivation. So just that internal drive to want to do. Okay, so that's another piece of self-awareness. That's definitely something we want to see in our students, right? That student that wants to clean up the center just because they want to, not because they're going to get a piece of candy, but because they want to, because maybe they want to make you feel proud, or maybe it just makes them feel proud. Okay, so that's under that self-awareness. That self-confidence, just like how do you present yourself in the room, or how do you present yourself? Like, I am nervous right now, but I can sit here with confidence knowing that I am very aware of what I'm speaking to you about. I am very prepared, right? So these are all things that, again, sit under that self-awareness. And then perseverance, so pushing through. So even when things might feel tough or hard, but how do we get through that? Our little ones, when we had preschool, when I was teaching preschool, we had shoes off, right? So when they would go outside, they would have to put the shoes on to go out the door. You've got the little one who wants the teacher to do it for them and get the shoe on them and tie the shoe and do it all. And then you've got the little one there that's just pushing through until they do it. They're stomping their foot on the ground to get their foot inside and anything they can to just like get the shoe on, right? That's perseverance. Okay, so the next one, self-management. Self-management is managing our own actions, thoughts, feelings, and being flexible, right, to achieve desired results. So when I think about that, I really think about that circle of control. Like, I am in control of my own actions, my own thoughts. I'm in control of my feelings. I'm in control of the way the outcome is when it's mine, right? I cannot control others. I cannot control their thoughts, their feelings, their actions. So this is about yourself. This is about managing how I interact with someone else. This is about managing those tough feelings when I'm having them. What do I do with them? Okay, so that is being flexible. I know that I have a kiddo in my own house that loves things a certain way, but we're learning how to be very flexible. 5 o'clock does not always mean on the dot 5 o'clock. I am sure you have a child like that at home or a student in your life that has been like that. Very literal, doesn't really like those changes, but handling change is really important. We can set routines, but we also don't want to be like super stuck in this is how it always is. We want kids to know what that flexibility feels like, and being flexible is one way of showing that you can kind of roll with it. This is not always easy. Emotion self-control, that's the big one, right? So that's really those coping skills, those calming skills. How are we getting our students to control their emotions, right? So I did talk about in my last presentation about regulation and something called co-regulation. So when kids are little, we're really there to kind of help them through what coping skills and how to kind of regulate those coping skills or those tough emotions. But then we eventually want them to start using them on their own. Are they using breathing techniques? Do they have fidget toys? Are they, these are my little feelings dolls. Are they squishing them? Are they breathing with them, right? So what are those emotional self-control pieces? And then having a growth mindset, right? The kiddo that isn't able to kind of persevere and get that shoe on or tie it today, they can't do it maybe yet, but they're going to be able to. So having a growth mindset is another piece of emotional intelligence. And then just being goal oriented, right? So what are the steps? And knowing like, I want to get here, but how do I get there? So being goal oriented is another piece of that self-management. So then this is about the social pieces. So social awareness is accurately reading emotions of others, also having empathy for others and seeing another's perspective. That is a really, really big, huge piece, right? Huge skills involved. A child needs to understand their own emotions before they can gain empathy and understand someone else's emotions. So for instance, if I am the child in the class and I am feeling sad, I may not understand someone else feeling sad until I can really understand what it feels like in my heart and in my body and in, if my tears and what's happening to me, to notice that in somebody else. So I cannot have empathy for somebody else until I can understand myself first. So the social awareness piece is a big piece, and it's something that we're doing every day in our classrooms, in our homes, right? Trying to create spaces where we are kind of building up these emotional intelligence skills within ourselves so that we can really understand other people and understand their perspective, right? Perspective taking, we still do, as adults, like you might fight with your sibling as an adult, or you might have an argument with your spouse or partner. But you need to also kind of listen, right? And you need to understand their perspective, even if it's not the same as yours, or you may not agree with it. Those are social pieces, okay? So as I just went over, it's that empathy, getting along with others, sensing others' feelings, and reading others' expression and tone. So think about that as a teacher or a director, right? Whether we're dealing with parents in the classroom or we're dealing with our colleagues or our own children or our own students, we really want to react to them in a way that is thoughtful and in a way that they are learning from us, right? So we're going to model what, even though I'm feeling really upset or I'm feeling furious that you threw something at a child in the classroom, I want them to, it's okay for them to see that in me, right? But I don't want to attack that child with my voice and my tone. I want to talk to them in the way that I would want them to respond to another child, right? So it's okay that I'm angry. They should not have done what they did, but how do I express that to that child? Those are things that our kiddos are learning, and we are their models. So this fourth piece is relationship management. So our emotions and the emotions of others to manage those social interactions, right? So how are we listening? Are we empathizing? Are we able to problem solve? Are we able to get through conflict with others, right? Big pieces here. So we're building bonds. Are we expressing ourselves and our ideas clearly to somebody else? Are we able to lead a team, right? Are we able to contribute to teamwork, right? Those are all really big things in relationships. That doesn't necessarily mean that as adults, we're doing this all the time either, right? So we're still learning that. But these are the things we're trying to start those seeds young for our children. So this quote really sits with me because it tells us how these emotions are really important for our kiddos in school. And it says, it's not enough to be smart and hardworking. Students must also be able to understand and manage their emotions to succeed at school. So think about the kiddo coming in who has just lost a family member and they are grief-stricken. That child's learning is probably not going to be at his best for quite some time until they are really ready and they're in a place to learn. So having the emotional intelligence to be able to express and talk and communicate and get through that so that they are able to then start the learning at school, right? Those are really important and really big ideas that we're going to take away from today. So why emotional intelligence matters? Well, as I said, our performance at school and also as adults at work. So Dr. Mark Brackett, I love this quote, and it says the three most important aspects of learning are attention, focus, and memory. So think about that. Attention, focus, and memory are all controlled by emotion, not cognition. So as educators, okay, or even in our own homes as parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles, right? We need to think about learning can only happen, right, when our emotions are in a safe place and are in a calm place. Because as I talked about in my last webinar, when our emotions are really high, our thinking brain is not ready to be learning. Our thinking brain is not taking in the information. Okay, so again, being able to have the emotional intelligence of being self-aware, being self-calming, those are really important for our students and our own children to be able to really attend and focus and remember what it is that they're learning. The next one is mental health. So mental health really is health for all of us, right? So mental health, I like to say mental health is health, right? So we have our physical health, we have our emotional health, we have our mental health. And this is our ability to control our emotions, right? And so when stress is there, right? How are we able to kind of overcome the stress that's happening so that we can move forward, so that we can connect with others, we can build relationships, right? So these are all really important things for us to be thinking about why this emotional intelligence piece is so important for our students and littles in our lives, as well as ourselves. So again, the physical health, like literally the idea of managing stress is about like naming our feelings, right? So Dr. Siegel talks about name it to tame it. And I'm telling you, it's real. If we are able to, or a child is able to say like, I'm feeling angry or I'm feeling stressed out, right? That in of itself like brings the hormones down of the stress, right? The stress hormones literally come down, which is keeping our physical health, our immune systems at a much better place than if we're totally stressed out all the time because we don't really know how to handle, cope, or even talk about or communicate how we're feeling. The next one is relationships. So our emotional intelligence matters because relationships are a part of literally everything we do, whether it's our own children, our students, our coworkers, our neighbors, our community members, right? So building relationships with other people, right? How do we communicate with them? How do we treat them? When are we having empathy? Are we having compassion? Like those are all important things. If you walk into the office and someone is feeling down, do you know how to interact with that person and understand them and express to them that you care? Okay, and then the last one is social intelligence. So our emotions serve purposes, right? it's something that really is universal. And even all different places around the world have different words and have different meanings behind some emotions. But for the most part, there are a lot of them that are very similar that we can recognize in each other. So that social intelligence piece really is something that will be a universal piece for us and for our children to be learning as they are kind of growing in their own. So now that we've gotten a really good grasp, hopefully, on what emotional intelligence is and why it matters, I'm going to talk about resilience, and then we're going to talk about sort of like how these go together. So that's kind of the main piece here. So resilience is the process and the outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. So what that means is there's stuff going on internally, there's stuff coming at us externally. How are we as human beings able to process and successfully sort of adapt to what is going on, right? Life experiences. There are traumas. There's COVID, right? There's someone on here said that they were positive, for COVID. What does that now mean? Do they need to isolate? Are they away from their family? Are they away from their job, right? So all of that is really defined as what is resilience. There's the internal and the external factors, and how do we process and overcome that? So contributing factors, the most important contributing factor to a child to learn and have resiliency is really the adult and child relationship. We are not raising children in a siphon, right? We are raising children not in isolation. We are raising children out in a community. They're in our schools, they're in our homes, they're out in our activities, they're out on the baseball field, they're out, playing in the marching band. Okay, so supportive adults we need to think about collectively, not just a parent. Okay, however, having a supportive adult relationship with a parent at home is extremely important, and something we do hope for all children. We do know that that is not always the case. So remember that your job, anytime you are a part of a child's life, is you are literally the most important factor on building this sense of resiliency for this child. Okay, the next one is availability of resources. So we have things like money and information, which are more tangible, okay? And we have less tangible, such as love and affection and connection, right? So connecting with children, right? Showing affection, talking, communicating, loving them for the kiddo that they are. That is a huge part of helping contribute to resiliency in our children. The next one is self-efficacy. So the ability to succeed, right? Or control over life's events. So what this means is children that are able to set their goals, children that are able to kind of attain those things, right? That is when they can see themselves succeed, they feel proud, they feel like they're able, okay? So those are really important. Control or agency. So this is about giving kids sort of autonomy, giving kids some choice. So I use an example, of my kiddo and the dishwasher. So I can tell my son, who's 10, who loves baseball, that the dishwasher needs emptying, and he can either do it now or he can do it when the Mariners game is over. Okay, so he's going to choose to do it when the Mariners game is over, which is fine. But I gave him some control in that. If I tell him, I need you to empty the dishwasher right now, typically I am not getting a very good emotion back from him. He does not like it that way, which is okay. At his age, at 10 years old, I like that he wants to be able to kind of have some control or agency over making decisions. And I find that to be a really important thing that we can do for our kids. The line is, we're going to do that. You are going to do the dishwasher, right? But I'm giving you a little bit of control about when. So that is another important factor for our kids. We want them to know that they are also in control of their, so I talked about that circle of control. They're in control of their behaviors. They are in control of their actions. They are in control of how they are feeling. So we talked about that in the beginning. I cannot worry about how Johnny in the, in the classroom behaves. That's not, I can't do anything about that, right? So getting our children to really understand that they are in control. So I use the circle of control. I have it, my kids have it on their wall. This is a really important thing to talk to our kiddos about. What they are in control of belongs to them. What someone else is doing, they don't have any control over, right? Someone else's actions. Okay, and then the next one here is adaptive skills. So that comes into our coping skills and our self-regulation. So this is really where we start seeing also kind of that overlap of the emotional intelligence piece and the resilience. So kiddos that are able to, or adults, so humans that are able to have an adverse situation, but then their tough emotions are super heightened. Are they able to self-regulate? Are they able to ask for help if they need help, right? Are they able to cope with those adversities, okay? So again, another one. And the last one here that is a contributing factor to resilience are things like character. So like, who are you and what do you believe in, right? Faith, hope, and cultural traditions. So another piece that contributes to all of this. So the science of resilience. So I have a little quick share of a video. So hopefully everyone's going to see this okay. Maybe Ian can just quick tell me on the chat here if we're good. But let's see if this is going to go. Can you see that, Ian?
Resilience is the result of a highly interactive process between individual characteristics in the person and the environment in which that individual has developed.
It's really the counterbalancing of difficult things that may exist in the child's life with positive things that occur within the family, but even positive things that may exist in the community.
The easy way of thinking about resilience is like a scale with a fulcrum in the middle of it. And there are things on both sides of that scale, experiences of both bad things or good things.
Our genes shape where the fulcrum is positioned at the start.
There are certain genes that make a child more sensitive to the effects of maltreatment or parental neglect or witnessing violence.
The fulcrum may start out kind of more towards one side or more towards the other side, and that's going to make a big difference in terms of how much these subsequent events affect things positively or negatively.
Science tells us that experience moves the fulcrum for better or for worse.
Even though we are born with genes, genes will respond differently to certain environmental situations as opposed to others.
What the genes are actually doing are turning up or turning down the expression of chemicals in circuits in the brain and the circuitry in the entire body that govern our responses to stress, to anxiety, to depressive symptoms.
When positive experiences accumulate and children learn coping skills that help them to manage stress, the fulcrum can slide, so the scale tilts toward positive outcomes more easily. That's what resilience is all about.
There's always an adult or more than one adult who is key to providing that relationship that helps to build resilience.
Okay, so hopefully we're all back here. And so that video is just a really nice video that shows really what resilience looks like, right? And I love this idea of the fulcrum because we're going to have our children and ourselves, we're going to have negative experiences, right? That's part of life. And we're also going to have positive. So it's about how that weighs out. Are we able to kind of overcome? So here's kind of another picture of that counterbalance. So adversities, we could think of lots of different ones, right? So we have lack of adult connection. As I told you, that adult relationship is really number one. There are traumas, there are painful emotions, behavioral challenges. Like I said, COVID, right? What did it feel like in our classrooms, in our homes when our parents were ill and trying to, have our children there? And, so those are adversities, right? So those might be the negatives. And then we have the protective factors and that adaptability piece. So we have skilled caregivers, right? We have caregivers that are connected, that sit with us, talk to us, right? We have responsive relationships with our teachers and our parents. We get good sleep, right? So these are all positive outcomes and protective factors that help us to be resilient. Good nutrition, interpersonal skills. So how are we kind of forming relationships? Do we have resources that help keep us safe in our homes, in our schools? Do we know how to label our emotions? Do we have those coping emotion regulation strategies? So we know that resilience is evident in a child or even in an adult, but as we're speaking a little bit more towards children today. So when those negative outcomes are stacked, right, we are still seeing the positives, and the positives become heavier, right? So that is what we want to see. So we want kids to be learning those coping skills, the communication skills. We want them to be able to have those emotion regulation strategies. So when things get tough, those adversities are happening, those negative outcomes, right, that we can put things heavier on the positive. So the connections between emotional intelligence and resilience. So children experience big emotions because pain, disappointment, failure, frustration, and unwanted circumstances are new to them. Each of these normal bumps in the road is, for a child, is an opportunity to gain emotional intelligence and resilience. Okay. So these normal bumps, right? We all have them, and some of our sweet kids have them more. But being a safe and protective place for a child can come from you. It doesn't always have to be the household parent. Again, we are not sort of raising kids in isolation. We have lots of different people and adults in their lives. So resilience looks like optimistic thinking, goal setting, learning from our mistakes, having self-control, recognizing our emotions and others' emotions, willingness to overcome difficulties rather than avoiding them, having social skills to participate and have relationships, having problem-solving skills, having that confidence, that self-esteem, the ability to seek assistance from others. So while I talk about we don't always want to swoop in and fix it all, right? Because that doesn't really help our kids persevere and learn that resilience piece of like pushing through even when the hard stuff comes. But we got to ask for help sometimes. We as adults need to ask for help. So we really do want to teach kids when they're in a place they need help. I used to say 3 before me in the classroom, like go ask 3 before you come ask me. And if you've done that, then you've sought help from someone other than the adult. And understanding and accepting our own strengths and weaknesses. So actions that decrease resilience are making children uncomfortable from failure, right? So if we're constantly saving them, then they don't become comfortable with what it feels like to try at something and fail, right? And that's okay. Like it's okay that that our kids are struggling sometimes doing something, right? If it's detrimental, of course, that is where an adult should be coming in, but we want to stand next to them, right? And we want to help them, but we don't want to always do for them, jump in and fix it all the time. When we negate their feelings, right? So that emotional intelligence piece, if a kiddo is telling us that they are feeling a certain way, and then we just come in and like distract the situation or have them avoid that they're feeling sad or feeling angry or feeling furious, right? What are we doing to help them? Well, we're not. We're saying, oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You lost your favorite blanket, but it's no big deal. We'll just go buy another one. That's not really validating what that child's feeling. So we do not want to negate their feelings. We want to validate their feelings. Okay, we do not want to teach those defense mechanisms, right? So we're decreasing resilience when we go into the denial or the repression of our feelings, or we're teaching them to be the victim all the time, right? Oh, it's always, oh, it's never my fault, but people are always doing this to me. So we want to get kids to be more resilient by teaching them how to, again, know the emotional intelligence pieces I talked about, how to understand how they're feeling, how to really be able to cope with how they're feeling, not just brush it all away, avoid it, repress it, right? So these are all things that sort of decrease resilience, which is definitely not what we want to do. A child who is not comfortable failing or experiencing struggle will become dependent and will become less confident, right? And they may become fearful of going out to do things. So these are sort of, I wanted to share these as the what not to do, because sometimes I will tell you distraction is something I see all the time. When a kiddo is, crying, especially, and I feel that sometimes it's I feel embarrassed as the parent that my kid is having a meltdown, but really your kid is trying to communicate to you. So getting to the understanding of that is a little more important than telling them to stop crying, forget it, and try and move on, right? So it's okay that they're feeling what they're feeling. So actions that increase resilience are things like normalizing failure, struggle, normalizing those big, tough emotions that we all feel them. It's okay to express them, right? And then how do we sort of let them go? We want to model and teach those healthy coping strategies. So as I said, calming techniques, right? Is that breathing exercises? Is it, squeezing our fist and letting them go? So learning what those coping skills might be. Are they sensory supports, right? I talked about like touching or feeling or fidgets, right? Lots of fidgets all over my house. Using thinking strategies, right? So thinking about how you might problem solve, or thinking about how you might do it differently, or reflecting back, right? So these are all actions that will increase resilience for our kiddos. So I want you to take a quick thought here and tell me in the chat, and I have just a few minutes left here, but what are your go-tos before I tell you some of the coping strategies that I've seen in children? What are your go-tos? Are you someone that uses coping skills that are more like, do you use diversion, right? So do you go to, I'm going to go take a walk and try and put my earpods in and think about something else? Do you like to talk to somebody, right? Do you use humor to sort of take away the tough stuff? Do you make gratitude lists? Do you brainstorm solutions? Do you write lists, like those pros and con lists, like those little T charts, right? Are you someone that likes to do exercise for tension release, or crying, or even laughing? Okay, so those are all, and then there's the physical. Do you notice you just need more sleep? Do you need to put different foods in your diet? Do you need more water? Do you use the breathing techniques? So those are physical. And then we have spiritual, praying, meditating, being out with nature, getting involved in a worthy cause. So maybe your emotions are, very saddened and in grief about something that happened to someone in your family. And so you want to put your energy into a worthy cause. Are you a limit setter? Like, are you good at saying no and prioritizing? Setting self-care time. So making sure that you're taking care of yourself and making sure you have kind of a schedule for that. So I would love to see in the chat which one or many of these do you use to kind of go, what are your go-to coping skills? I would say for me, I'm kind of the social interpersonal, and then I would go to the probably physical, getting some sleep. That's typically my my need right there. So, all right. Well, I'm loving hearing what everyone has had to say. Thank you for participating. Yes. So we've got a whole slew of different gardening, walking, hiking, talking to a friend. Yeah. Okay. So these are great. So healthy coping strategies. these are the things that we're teaching kiddos, right? We want to model these behaviors. We want to do this because what we are doing is we are improving that resilience for our next generation. So again, this is about that self-awareness, that self-control, and how are we able to teach this to kiddos? So here we are, feelings and thoughts, right? We're teaching them how to ask for help. We're teaching them how to name their feelings and how to talk positively to themselves. Creativity. We're having them create artwork. Maybe they're baking, building, using, writing, using a journal. There's body movement, as we talked about, exercise. There's maybe it's alone time, right? Maybe it's just moving to somewhere that they need to be on their own, or it's breath work. Like we talked about, caring for our body with nutrition or different sports activities. And then there's our mind. We could journal, we can listen to music, read, find relaxation. My daughter loves to turn on like the symphony music and relax, or just maybe writing in a notebook. Then there's the really important piece of connection, right? So we want to connect with kids. We want to play games with them, hug them if they're comfortable with that, right? Find activities together, choice activities that kiddos enjoy to do. These are all things that will really help us model those really healthy coping strategies, because we know that if they do not have the healthy coping strategies, kiddos are turning to things that are quite unhealthy. And that's definitely not what we are trying to put out there in the world as educators and parents and community members. So supporting resilience, respect, accept, and understand. So again, as I talked about, these kiddos need connection, right? Family members, peers, community members. Hold space for them. What does that mean? It really means that you're getting down on their level. You're listening to them. As you connect and as you're talking and communicating with a child that is able to express themselves and sort of be emotionally intelligent and know how to kind of talk about their feelings, express how they're doing, how their day was, you're literally bringing their nervous system to a better place because they are able to connect and feel safety. Really important in resilience for our children. So help your child helping others, right? So sometimes kiddos are those kids that want to go and help in the classroom, or they want to be the helper at home, right? So empower them to do that. That, I know for me, like my love language out there in the world is I love to help other people. So that makes me feel really good. And I'm not asking for anything in return. That is just what I enjoy. And we have a lot of kids that do the same. Maintain routines. So classroom routines, home routines. In fact, my blog today was all about that, right? So keeping structure, keeping routines, those are really important for our kiddos to feel that sense of safety and the ability for bouncing back when things might be out of routine, and being flexible and being okay with that. And then we hit that validating their feelings. I talked about that already, right? So really letting them know that you accept how they feel. That does not mean that you agree with how they feel or agree with how they reacted or acted to the situation of the tough emotion, but that you are listening to them, that you are validating that they feel that way. And then again, self-care. So those kiddos need to be hydrated, and they need food, and they need sleep, and they need some exercise and movement. And moreover, they need to have fun. Their language is play. So connecting with them, having fun with them, doing things that they enjoy. These are all things that are going to support resilience. Goal setting. So setting reasonable goals. Like we don't need to set these huge goals that are really big for our kiddos, but like setting reasonable goals. Them having a positive self-view. So we want our children to feel good and confident about themselves. And I talked about that when we were talking about that self-awareness, right? We can instill that by giving them positive feedback, by letting them be problem solvers, letting them make good decisions, as I talked about with that agency piece of them having a little bit of control over some choices. Like we want them to be able to do that as adults. So let's start now. And then just the hope for the future. When a child hits something really tough, we really want them to understand that this moment is this moment, right? And yes, like a loss of a family member, for instance, is definitely a much bigger event, is a much bigger situation than, something like losing their favorite toy. But knowing that even in the loss of a family member, right, there will be some good supports there. There will be lots of love, and there will be a time where life will feel different, right? So knowing that there is a future beyond, that self-discovery, right? So like we talked about, just learning in those moments, being able to bounce back and be able to move forward. It isn't easy to overcome the tough stuff and move forward, but that is, again, what resilience is. And so if we can be those caretakers that are really supporting them through that, the likelihood is really good that they're going to be able to be resilient and roll with it. Accepting change, right? So change is a part of life. So the flexibility piece that we talked about when we were talking about the emotional intelligence. So resiliency really looks like that flexibility. And I know that we saw a lot of that in our students this last year. So this last slide really is, the high emotionally intelligent person as opposed to a low emotionally intelligent person. And so the scale on both sides. So the high emotionally intelligent person will have a more optimistic view, while the lower emotionally intelligent person will really have more of a negative view of things, and sort of the negativity takes over. And the high emotionally intelligent person will react to hurt by processing, thinking, reflecting, while a low emotionally intelligent person will react by maybe physically hurting someone else, right? And then the last piece on both sides is emotionally resilient. So again, bringing those pieces together again, the high emotionally intelligent person is really going to be able to express themselves and bounce back through that, while a low emotionally intelligent person is going to carry the grudge, not forgive, really stick with those negative feelings, right? So, you look at these two and it's like, we would all really like to see, kind of creating and helping that space for a high emotionally intelligent child. And we know as adults that maybe we didn't grow up with all of this information. So we didn't really express ourselves maybe in the same way that we're hoping to get kids to now, because research tells us how important it is for them to be emotionally intelligent and have that important piece of resilience in their life. So navigating that complex world, this is my daughter just having a jump here, but showing up for our kids. We do not need to solve it all, right? There is wisdom in stepping back. There is wisdom in listening. Their emotions are valuable information. Helping children develop comfort in those tough emotions is actually a really good thing for them. Don't distract. Don't tell them that it's, not okay to feel a certain way. Their feelings are truly, as Susan David says in this quote here, it's the cornerstone to resilience and really having an authentic happiness for our children. Understanding that their feelings are real. We all have them. It is a very normal part of anywhere you go in this world, and then learning what to do with them, and just that they can survive the tough stuff. And, life's up and downs, and it's a roller coaster, and the emotions are mixed, and, life throws us those pieces of adversity, but, we can overcome. So thank you so much. I, again, really appreciated being here today, and I see Maddie back on, so I'm going to hand it back over.
Marcel, thank you so, so much. That was amazing. I know it's tricky to see the chat when you're presenting, but take a look at it right now. People loved all the information you had to share, which is also just so lovely to see. There have been so many requests for this recording, so do not worry, everybody. We have been recording it all for you, and you will get that early next week. I know we're down to the wire, Marcel, but if you have a minute, I have one question I would love to ask you that came in from the audience, because I found it a very just honest question that this person asked. So I'd love to share it with you and see your thoughts. Before we dive into that, though, as always, everybody on here, we do have our questions of the day. We always want to hear from you. I have just launched those questions, so those should be popping up on your screen any minute now. But we're curious to know, how do you currently track children's emotional development at your center? What is your center doing to monitor this learning and support children in developing high emotional intelligence. And as well, if you're interested in learning how Hi Mama Academy can put professional development at your fingertips, again, you can have a 7-day free trial. You don't have to commit to anything, just see if it works for you. It's a very amazing professional development platform. So let us know. Otherwise, we are going to do a super quick Q&A. I've got one question for Marcel before we wrap up our webinar today. Let me just find it here. Okay, so Marcel, one question that came through is, how do I manage wanting to control other people's emotions and accepting those emotions when they're different than mine? I struggle with this. I thought this was a very honest question that we can probably all relate to. So I really wanted the time for this one.
Okay, so I guess I would go to, it sounds like they're asking adult to adult rather than like an adult to a child, do you think? Or just to
Perhaps.
Okay.
I mean, wanting to control other emotions, I getting that a little bit, but maybe it's relatable to both.
Okay. So, I mean, I would think first to say that if it comes to an adult to like a child, like someone in the classroom or someone at home, it's really important that we remember that, number one, their brains are not fully developed. They are little humans and their sense of the world is much smaller than ours. And their sense of sort of what is going on in the world is hopefully at that age still much smaller than ours. And so what is big to them may not feel big to us as adults, but it is. And it's real for them. And so when I talked about validating what our kids are feeling, again, that doesn't mean that I agree that you should feel mad about this or you should feel, scared about this. But if they think there are, monsters in their closet, then you need to validate to them that you hear them. And then you can go through talking about how, there aren't and have that discussion, but validate that I hear that you're scared. Right. And the same thing adult to adult, I believe. Like I hear that my husband might feel a certain way. I want to let him know that I hear him, but I do not feel the same. And that is something I think as a community and as a culture, that is something we need to be better at as human beings, being okay with other people feeling different things than we do.
Absolutely. And in the same breath, I guess, feeling okay with being uncomfortable sometimes, that we aren't all going to agree on everything. And that's also okay, that the discomfort is okay between humans.
Yes. And we say sometimes you have to get uncomfortable or get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that rings true with many, many parts of our lives and our children's lives and our students' lives, that it's something we need to get comfortable with, being uncomfortable. And it is a feeling, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think those are some very wise words to leave everybody here with today as you all go back into your centers and into your classrooms and continue working with all those little ones in your lives. Marcel, thank you so, so much for being here with us today, for sharing your knowledge. That was an amazing presentation. I certainly hope you can see the recording at some point so you can see some of those comments in the chat as well if you weren't able to today. But again, Marcel, thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you for sharing all of this insight and knowledge with us today. We appreciate you.
I appreciate Maddie and Hi Mama and Ian. So thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Marcel. Take care. Before we wrap up, everybody, and get back on with our days, head into what may also be a long weekend for some of you on here. Show notes and recording. We are sending that out early next week. The winner of our 2 giveaways will also be announced in that show notes email. So you definitely want to open it up because it could just be your name being announced as the winner. Next week, same time, same place, next Thursday, September 8th, 2:00 Eastern time, we are doing a live panel discussion with 2 childcare directors to discuss how they are saving time this new school year so they can focus on what matters most. So you do not want to miss that one because you can learn real life tips and strategies from your peers in the early learning field. So you can sign up for that now. Otherwise, everybody, thank you so, so much for being here with us today, for taking time out of your Thursday to learn and to grow. We appreciate all of you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.